Hello, it's Tash here. In this episode, we are going to talk about finding the right builder. So I have 5 questions you can ask to help you find the right builder. In my research for this series, I surveyed a number of renovators, and when I asked them the question, what was your biggest concern or pain point before starting your renovation, 75% of them said they were worried about finding the right builder for their project. So, as it's my mission to help renovators manage their own projects like a pro, in this episode, I'm going to address that concern and I'm going to share these 5 questions you can ask to help you find the right builder. There's a lot more to share on this topic actually. Finding the right team can sometimes take a while. There are so many considerations, including skills, personality, availability, but at least these are 5 questions that you can ask, and they're a really good place to start. So let's get going. In our 5-pillar process, the information in this episode falls under pillar 3, people. So everything I teach about renovations falls under this process, this 5-pillar process. And there'll be more information on how to get your hands on some of the resources on this process at the end of this episode. Okay, so question 1 is, can you provide a detailed breakdown of your estimate? So if a builder has quoted without providing a detailed breakdown of all the work into individual sections or phases, then you should ask for a detailed breakdown of the quote. This will not only help you to understand the individual costs associated with the labour, the materials, the permits and any other expenses, but it will also make it so much easier for you to compare all the quotes you receive on a like-for-like basis. And so receiving the quotes in this kind of transparent way where everything's divided and laid out, it will allow you to identify where the costs are high, and it will give you a chance to kind of make adjustments to fit your budget. Perhaps you can ask the builder some questions on alternatives. So this is a really big one for me, is always try and figure out the breakdowns. And builders sometimes will quote in lots of different ways. I've seen so many different formats. They all have their own way of quoting. There's no kind of standardized version unless you actually ask them for it, or you provide them with a document with the breakdowns that they can then associate costs against each line. So this is quite an important one. It's very important to see the individual phases, and it's also very important to be able to compare those individual phases on a like-for-like basis over all the quotes that you get for your project. So let's move on to number 2. So question 2 is, are there any potential additional costs or unforeseen challenges that you anticipate? So when you're getting builders in to look at your project, they come to do a site visit before they quote perhaps, and experienced builders, they can often foresee any potential problems or challenges that may come up during your project. So at this point, this is a really good question to ask, because if they spot something when they come to review the site before providing you with a quotation, you can ask about these in advance, and you can just be really clear about it and say to them, do you see anything here that might affect the costs or affect the project? Good builders will be able to spot things where they can see a potential problem might arise, or they might spot something that needs repair that wasn't included in your initial scope of work. So asking about these in advance really does allow you to kind of adjust your budget or add a bit of extra to contingency, and it also just ensures that the quote you receive is more accurate if they're including works that they spot that might need doing. But you kind of have to, it might sound obvious, but you have to ask them to include for things that they might foresee. Otherwise they might just quote you for only for what you've wanted, because they maybe think, oh, maybe you're just trying to keep the costs down. But spotting problems at this stage and addressing them is a much better way to approach the renovation. So let's move on to question 3. And question 3 is, how many other projects will you be working on at the same time? So this is important from a timing perspective, because depending on the builder or the building firm you hire, they are quite likely to be working on more than one project at a time. So it's important to know that if they are working on multiple projects at a time, that you should follow up and ask about their staffing levels. So if the answer to the question is we're working on 3 other projects at the same time, then do follow up with the next question, which is, do you have the staffing levels to cover all those projects? And can you ensure that my project will stay to its timeline set out and progress according to the timeline we set out if you were to hire them? So it's really important to establish what they've got on and how that might affect the timing of your project. You can't stop builders from doing more than one project at a time. I've had clients before who try and prevent that happening. They say, well, if you're working on my project, I don't want you working on any other project at the same time. But we're all trying to get as much work as we can. Everybody needs to pay the bills, so there's no way of actually preventing a builder from taking on another project. You just, I think, need to be upfront and honest, and hopefully they are the same with you. And hopefully if they're not, you can sense that and make your decision from there. So moving on to question number 4. And question number 4 is, can you provide a list that clearly clarifies all your exclusions? This is a very, very important one. And if you've been listening for a while, I'm going to say it again. If you take the time to learn about the process, the whole renovation sequence from start to finish, you will have a much clearer understanding of what should be included in a full quote for a renovation. So therefore, it'll be much easier for you to spot any kind of surprise exclusions if you know what to expect, or what should be included in the quote from the first place. But you should always ask for this, because like I said just before, builders quote in so many different ways and they work in different ways. And what one builder might see as part of the job, another builder might exclude as an extra. So make sure that you get the list of exclusions before you make your final decision, and also before you do your builder comparisons, because one builder might be excluding one thing and another builder might be including it, and that could affect the costs when you're comparing. So always make sure that you ask for their lists of exclusions. And finally, we get to question number 5, which is, can I meet 2 of your previous clients? So this is basically asking for references or examples of past projects. Doing this, I just really take the time to do this. I know it's tempting to just think, oh, I like that builder or I like that company and they've come well recommended and I'm just going to go with them. But please do make the time to do this. Go actually and visit their previous clients and talk to them if you can, because it really will give you insight into the builder's capabilities and their quality of work, which you can't really get from a recommendation. So I would always recommend speaking to their previous clients. It will give you kind of further insight into the personality aspect as well. So not only are you getting a sense of final project and the quality of the work, but you also get a chance to speak to the client and find out what the working relationship was like, what the builder was like on the project, because it's really important. I mean, after all, when you hire a contractor or a builder, you will be working with this person on a daily basis for, from 3 months to a year, possibly, depending on the scope of your project. So you really need to make sure that you're happy with who you hire and that you feel that you can work alongside them. And meeting previous clients and seeing the previous work not only helps you make an informed decision, but it also ensures that the builder has experience with projects that are similar to yours. So, which also will increase the likelihood that the the quote that they have given is accurate, because you will then know if they have done a project which is similar to yours before and you're asking them to quote for a very similar project, they will obviously have the knowledge of how much that project cost them to do, so therefore their quote will be more accurate. I think that wraps up this episode, and I really hope it helps you find the right builder, because it is one of the most important things on the project, is to find the right people, and especially the right builder. So keep planning. Your dream home will become a reality if you plan, you learn the sequence, and you just know which questions to ask and how to approach your project. So keep following for more info, for more advice, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Bye everyone. For more information on my 5-pillar process for successful renovation, you can go directly to southplacestudio.com/pillars, where you'll find an introduction to the process and what each pillar covers.